where government was selling an artificial building to somebody, the government value lower than the criticize. His value of the government value was lower, was half of what the criticize value by. Criticize saw the pressure of that building, that you can rent a hotel, they have your water which can be used as a vegetable garden. So many things they discover which have potential for income, which the government value not is so important. If it's as it is, that is you should use more than concrete approach to build the property. But the other value is as a potential. I just want to have other potential, and I can think of other uses that will create a higher value for the potential.
Thank you, my bro. Thank you, bro.
I see that you spoke largely from the perspective of the private sector. You didn't address the issues of consulting for the federal government when looking at this position of assets now. I know you likely spoke more on the side of the federal. As our first vice president, through perspective, as a major player in consulting for the government, you will understand that area a little better. So speak to us as to how to render value-added professional advice to the federal government when it comes to eliminating their assets, both forfeited ones or the ones that have been used over the years.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. Before I go into that, let me give my own practical experience. In 1999, when I was a partner with ABUJA, we were given some property to sell by the federal government. And I know that all the properties we sold were able to keep possession. And those properties were seized by the military administration of ABUJA through decree. But currently, the current administration, through the Ministry of Justice, under the Office of the Attorney General Commission, I think has been very transparent.
Has been what?
Very transparent in the process. Let me say, we all are aware that the Office of the Attorney General put up a committee constituted by professionals, and the current minister acknowledged the importance of the role of the state surveyors and valuers, and that was why one of our own, apart from those solutions, were co-opted into that committee. One of our own is Niesv, who were part of those committees that constantly advise the minister, that is Attorney General, on how to put up a transparent process in the sale, in the valuation and sale of these assets. Now, our role, we all knew when the very first time they came up, the day they addressed the press, we were given a singular plan as estate surveyors and valuers to value the properties under the current dispensation. And they also said that after the valuation, they will now sell the property to auction. And they have made it clear that those involved in the valuation will not be involved in the sale. We are aware that those involved in the valuation of the current assets forfeited to the federal government will not be involved in the sale, in disposal. Now, our role has been one, through the committee, has been an advisory role to the minister. Then two, we have been given the opportunity to value the properties. again, we also have another opportunity to be part and part of those to dispose of these properties. So to a large extent, it has been very, very transparent. Thank you.
Thank you, my
First part. You see, the major issue here, what you have said has been what has been happening over the years. We usually get the valuation. We usually also sell. What we're saying is that when we value and sell, there are issues that come up that we need to advise our clients, just like Professor Otebudu said. He said to us, we need to do an asset audit and also advise your clients. You're buying number 4 Cooper from NDIC. You may have issues of the owner being an HNI who knows everybody in Nassau. After you have paid 1 billion naira, you'll probably not be able to get into site to take possession. Those are the kind of issues we deal with as players in this kind of economy. So how do we deal with such landmines as value as what you're dealing with? For example, I give you my own experience. I bought assets almost for 3 billion under an edition. I still have some that were in court with federal government over that were planning to build an hotel in places like Papa. But we have worked, we cannot get fees, we have C of O, and this is going on for years, for decades. So how do you advise the client that guys don't buy federal government property? That's the first red flag that will be seen when you're dealing with forfeited assets. It was seen when we're dealing with NDIC assets. Sensitive buyer will not touch an NDIC asset. The informed buyer will not touch a federal government asset. These are encumbrances to the properties that are being thrown up. If you ask me, the sensitive or informed buyer will not touch a forfeited asset because there are other options. So those are the conversations that we need to tell ourselves. It's very easy to get valuation deals. If you get the brief, you get your fee. It's very easy to do the auctioneering. But the business end of it is selling those assets and unlocking that real estate potential for the benefit of the larger society. And that is the whole purpose of selling these assets. Not just to sell and not be able to use the money to benefit the man on the street. So when the man that has paid you almost $1 billion cannot get value, you cannot use that money. The money will be kept somewhere until you resolve those issues. So those are the issues that we must think through before we quickly run into those breaks.
Yes,
Mr. Moderator, you know, when I was talking from the problem aspect. First, let me see, we were talking about media trial of EFCC and so on. Already I have seen media valuation. Ask me what you mean by media valuation. I think it was EFCC chairman or something who went on air here to say the value of XYZ jewelry is 14 billion or something. Already he has already told the whole world the value of the asset before anybody has been commissioned to value it. Immediately I heard it, luckily I called our colleague who is representing our interest. He said that is serious, they don't understand what they are talking about. Because when you do a proper valuation now, he has already told the world the value is 14 billion. So when the proper valuation is done and the value comes up to maybe 10 million, 3 million, whatever, they will already castigate the value. That's the problem. They will tell you about the value. How do they get to what EFC must say? Nobody will know or ask. Another simple problem. Let's talk about specialized assets. When you see the tugboat, a ship, a bunkering vessel, and so on, the intention mentions that we will not buy a ship. It is the people who are in the same business whom you seize the assets from, who are interested in buying, and everybody is in a club. You know, a badge can never throw a tugboat. It's only a tugboat that throws a badge. So you see, when you value such assets, the people they seize these assets from are the people who genuinely have interest, or people who are in the same line of business, who are prone to buy those assets. And like again told me, yes, I bought my fingers once, I don't want to lose an arm. I bought the first one, till tomorrow I can't get possession. They encourage me to come and buy again. And when we were involved, we always advise our friends, get my colleague to represent me, advise me, like the people who say, somebody buying from potential point of view. And another person is buying as is. Those people will come up with two different variations. And it is for you to decide what you want to do. But the problem I'm saying is that the confidence in this exercise will be greatly impaired from the historical perspective where we are coming from.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think if we look at what we're discussing now, you find that some problems are coming up, meaning that we are now seeing the benefit of brainstorming. I've seen this country from one regime to the other, that you take action first, and then later on you begin to think. What my past president has just said, at the instance of the moderator, is very simple. If you don't learn from what happened about 5, 10, 20 years ago, chances are you are going to be repeating the same mistakes. The contribution I want to make at this juncture is this. It is incumbent on our professional body to actually set up a committee to lay out all problems that this country has encountered in similar exercises in the past. And let the public know that we have some cultural and political problem concerning disposal of anything that belongs to no one. I'm trying to use that to let you know that in this country, people believe that government property is nobody's property. So if they then have some chances of being either underrated or being conscious about, a committee that the current president will set up must have an interface with their colleagues in the law profession, meaning that when somebody goes out to acquire property belonging to the right government, there are checks and balances that can guarantee that the money is not going down the drain. Once more, I would like to appeal to those in power right now to ensure that whatever cooperation we can give to that Department of the Department of Justice and Attorney General to ensure that success is achieved is very paramount. Why is it paramount? The only thing lacking in our unlocking estate potential for economic development is this. Nigeria is passing through economic crisis. How do we mobilize all the potentials we have in this sector to make sure that we get recovery as fast as we can? I thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Niesv Paul Osaji has been holding on. So can we hear his contribution before we take just 2 questions from the General House? Niesv Paul Osaji, please.
My noble colleagues, I stand on all other protocol. Other panelists, thank you for what you have contributed. However, I didn't hear exactly or most of the things that was said. But in my own submission, I believe that the issue does not lie on the processes. Neither is it on the policies or program, but it is on implementation. And the implementation comes from both sides of the divide, from the government and from the operationals, the surveyors, the parties that are involved. The professionals, the government entities are being advised by professionals of one sort or the other. particularly estate surveyors. If we are sincere and we tell them the exact processes and the right thing to do, you do not just throw out a property there without clearing your house. So be sure that that property, when you finally dispose of it, the person, the buyer, will get full benefit from possession of the asset he would have acquired. And then we need to do that. Therefore, the Attorney General and the people involved should make sure that the titles to the properties are cleared, and that the process of obtaining them are also clear. Not after, it's just like a typical, every other typical transaction. Not after disposal, it becomes a problem for the person to take possession. If we can clear all those ones and also make sure that at the end of the day, whatever we do, whatever proceeds that comes out of the sales goes on to add and increase the housing stock for the benefit of all Nigerians. Because you washed out what happened in the last exercise, can you definitely point out that where that resource is, what it has done, the impact of that resource or proceeds from that sale, what it has done on housing stock? We are still where we are. It did not improve the housing financing aspect. It did not do that. The stock, physical stock, it did not. Nothing happened out of it. Nigerians will ask us, are we really advising this people from the both sides of the divide? What are we doing? Because we should advise them that at the end of the day, the process should help in increasing the housing stock, but it never did. And my suggestion is that we should not only stay back to earn our professional fees, we should also go a step further, that resources should be plowed back into the housing market, housing provision, because it will help the general populace to benefit and also increase our capacity and better Nigerians. That's my own little suggestion. Issue of process and procedures, I think if we advise them properly, they will get it right.
Thank you, Niesv, for that contribution. I'll just take, all right, Niesv, please go ahead. And we'll take two contributions, questions from the floor and the ground.
Thank you so much for that. I'm very brief. Like Paul has said, the critical aspect of it is the due diligence and our initial advisory work with the government. If you pick a property, number 10, I will go somewhere, number 10, pick up the file, look at the title, look at the ownership history, you involve lawyers that are not involved, look at the position, who's in the occupation, what is involved. All they're only going ahead to sell without checking out all those. The challenge that we've had here, and we all know that more often than not, the government goes ahead to sell, sometimes with our own help, without thinking of issues involved. And because purchasers always feel that, before now, the idea that you're buying the government assets, you buy it cheap. So you pay a low price, without knowing that you have issues in the future. My own take is that let the initial groundwork be done. As surveyor, assets in court has been sold with full disclosure. The challenge is that more often than not, the government has not done its homework properly. We as advisors have not advised the government properly. The person buying is also in a hurry to buy. More often than not, they just pay, thinking that they can walk around it. No, you don't spend money that way. In the end, we are all worse, or we have assets lying all over the place. Like I've said, and I give an example again, imagine the Chelsea hotel which is just down there. I'm sure it's been in that state for at least 10 years. More than 10 years. But then that hotel would have been giving the receiver manager and be operating as a going concern, irrespective of the case in court. Because I'm aware that even the banks that we sold, including Diamond Bank that was acquired by Asset, there are matters in court involving those transactions. There are matters in court involving the Intercontinental Bank that was closed to Wiley. But then the bank is running under Asset Bank. Nothing wrong with that. So we must encourage the government where it is clear it cannot be sold. In the single manager can be appointed, who can operate the assets. The key thing is let's not have idle assets lying all over the place. Let's confront them because if we can understand them, the government can earn income
can be employed, and the assets can be useful. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I think what I would just like to summarize is this. Let us not be too much in a hurry to dive into these briefs for the benefit of only ourselves. Because we're professionals that are supposed to look at it from one end to the other. You know. So if we're looking at it only from our own benefits alone, we will run into problems. We need to be able to advise the government that what you're going into, you're rounded about it. You need your lawyers to. I must point out the fact that Badala King is winning all the way is because it was also part of the process. From the beginning, he was a legal advisor to that talk. So he dotted his I's and crossed his T's. So for us as a profession, now that they're engaging us for forfeited assets, we need to tell them these properties must be in a transferable state. We don't just want to value, collect our fees, sell, collect our fees, and not be able to deliver value to the end user. And also, the federal government can't get the resources to do anything. So we must advise them holistically. That way, we will not be the laughing stock of the global community of valuers. Thank you, gentlemen. You've done a fantastic job. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Come and introduce the next panel while we go back to our seats. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We are sorry, sir. Hold on, sir, please.
Sorry, the questions will be taken jointly. You know, the other panelists will deal with some other issues, the moderation, and we'll take the questions jointly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Estate Surveyors and Valuer, Adejumoke Akure. Please come over, please. The second panelist, we have Estate Surveyors and Valuer Victor Adekunle Alonge. Followed by Estate Surveyors and Valuer Adamu Kasemu. Okay. Estate Surveyors and Valuer Francis Okpaleke. Thank you. The usher, please. Thank you. Thank you, sir. The center. Estate Surveyors and Valuer Benga Ismail. Followed by Estate Surveyors and Valuer ASP Kevin Ofile, Chief. The last but not the least, Estate Surveyors and Valuer Tope Ujo. Thank you, sir. We use these few minutes for our senior colleagues, Estate Surveyors and Valuer Bello, to give us a brief speech. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir. You have the table.
Thank you. My president, past presidents, noble colleagues, I'm a member of the IMC, the Interministerial Committee on the Disposal of Federal Government Assets, but I'm not their spokesman, you know. So I'm here in my personal capacity, and I would like to throw light on some of the discussions I've just had. There are basically two issues. The consultants issue that involves estate surveyors and valuers and the auctioneers. The second aspect is the legal issue. There are what you call interim forfeiture orders from the courts. Now, when you have these interim forfeiture orders, you can manage these forfeited assets for government or for the acquiring institutions like ICPC, EFCC, and other such government organizations. But before you can sell, there must be final forfeiture orders. Once you have final forfeiture orders, that constitutes your root of title. So there, for instance, in all our land laws and so on and so forth, we discover, we're taught how you come about your root of title. And one of such elements is title given by court. And that is when you have your final forfeiture orders. Therefore, don't also forget, as estate surveyors and valuers, that there is what you call caveat emptor. Let buyers beware. You can just not walk into an auction without your due diligence. You must get your lawyers to help you find out whether what you are buying is going to have a free title to pass. You know, so I don't want us to confuse the issue of consultancy in terms of valuation or auction by members who are estate surveyors and valuers who can also participate in our auction. But in the present dispensation, what we're saying is that those who have participated in the valuation of these properties cannot participate in their disposal. But for root of title, it is principally determined by final forfeiture orders, which remains the order of court. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Estate Surveyors and Valuers, Adejumoke Akure, you have the mic.
Good afternoon, all protocols duly observed, visitors and members of this great institution. Once again, I want to welcome you to another session, the second panel for today. And we're actually taking, they used to use this word in the military, they call taking dressing. We're actually going to be taking dressing from what had gone earlier, the first panel, where we had fathers who had gone through some exercises in the past. There's a proverb in Yoruba, loosely translated, that says that when an adult falls, he looks back. When a child falls, he looks forward. So the adults have looked back for us right now. They are young, don't forget, even if you see slight dash of gray, they are young people. So we want to take a look presently and even try to, postulate into the future concerning this very important topic, especially when we realize that as estate surveyors and valuers, dealing with the public space is it's a part of our professionalism that we cannot cut away. You cannot decide that I'm not going to deal with one part of it, I'm only going to deal with private sector. If as professionals, we must be seen speaking the language that determines how the profession is practiced in every sphere. So to have that discussion with me, all my panelists have been introduced, and I will want to hit the ground running. But I would like to ask, first of all, let me lay the ground rules. We have just about 5 minutes each, right? And then don't stretch beyond 5 minutes, please. And then we'll try to quickly wrap it up so that we can lay hold for what we need to do. Now, in the first panel, when they all share their experiences, I want us to use a SWOT model and ask going around. So you can pick which one you want. You could pick a SWOT, you can pick the strength, you can pick the weakness, you can pick the opportunity or the threats. Dealing on what they've spoken about, I want to start with you, sir, and to tell us, Francis Okwaleke. Yes, you are Francis Okwaleke, our indefatigable chairman of Electoral Committee, Lagos branch. Pass, just done. I want to ask you, sir, pick from the 4. I want us to use a model so that we can learn, because like they say, they do have assets that we cannot ignore. So there's a finesse to certain things. There are the technical parts, but there's also the creative. And so part of what I want to talk about is, apart from the technical, let's have a look at the creatives, or how we can sway this conversation in the right direction. So from the strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats, in all that we've discussed, what comes to you clearly as, pick one of these model and just talk about it for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the first panelists. They are quite experienced, our seniors. They've brought out a lot of issues, from opportunities, challenges, drawing from past experience. My perspective is to bring out that what is happening now is a technical issue. This disposal of forfeited and management of forfeited assets is an international thing. Forfeited assets are end product of assets recovery. They are special assets. They are proceeds of crime. We went through court process like Niesv says. They are final forfeited properties, end of the court process. So if we are looking at their challenges, and it's an international thing. There is a United Nations Convention guiding disposal and management of forfeited assets. There is a World Bank process guiding this. And looking at what is happening, I think where I see a challenge is that the Ministry of Justice is doing an international thing, but he appears maybe the professionals who didn't follow it properly at the early on, who were not carried along. Because this process has been on. I remember years back, the profession, 2015 or 16, is all linked to corruption. When we did a seminar 4 years ago, Yolanwe was the lead facilitator. So what is happening now is what started then. So there are a lot of literatures on this issue. And there are models, US, Spain. So what we are trying to do is what is happening internationally. There is a central body, and it's actually domiciled at the Ministry of Justice. But the only thing now is the process, transparency, and all the other things they're trying to do. So I think each country also tried to localize based on experiences. That is why how we have handled forfeited assets, like the first vice said, we have had forfeited assets under the military, from dating back to the Gowon era, Monitala era. There are various ways through decrees. But part of the challenges of title, when Babangida was leaving, the assets that were forfeited, it took a day's stroke of pen and they were returned. But now, leading international, because bad money kills an economy. So that is what we have to understand. When there were problems, the FCC and the Ministry of Justice, is actually lack of understanding. There has to be a central body. So the ministry is doing the right thing. And the processes under the convention, valuation, inspection, holding in custody, interim, there are defined ways of dealing it. So we have to understand and follow that process. Then drawing from our local experience, there are challenges that goes to do with even voluntary assets. You look at a lot of examples I've been giving with the federal secretary, is due diligence. So on both sides, we will represent buyers, we will represent the government, but we need to give proper advice. The Babalake case, the federal secretary, litigation is not good for real estate. So he recognized that that is why in that transaction, it wasn't an outright, they started with a concession and recognizing that real estate, he has to raise funds. He brought back, he knew what he was doing. And at the end of the day, that was how he got the 99 years. And he put check and balances. So drawing from that experience, Professor Tebulu talked about auditing the process. You can't go into a new process and you fail to learn from the mistakes.
So, sir, if you can't go to you can't go into a new process not learning from the mistakes. From your opinion, what would be, give 2 bullet points, because we want to take away conject things away that we can begin to start relating to. 3, 1, 2, 3 things that we must take away, knowing what we know then, and here we are now trying to pilot into the future.
Yes, dispute resolution. If how you resolve disputes is not carefully managed, we will not unlock the potentials. Secretariat is stuck. It's not the only one. You have the trade fair, so many major projects that will, impact the economy. They got locked down through disputes, through litigation. But what makes the secretariat we are talking about? The man has an arbitration clause. That was why his arbitration process ran for 6 months and it ended here.
Number 2,
so
sir.
if we are representing claims, we also have to look at that. Government on its own, this issue of title, the mistakes of not, we run a federation. You have the federal government, you have the state. Not recognizing the role of Lagos State, that is what led to that lockdown. And many of the assets, major assets in Lagos. We are in a new process. I've seen some of them coming out again. You look at last week, it was in the papers, EFCC, AMCON, they already, the National Assembly, there is possible already on banks claiming that some of these properties forfeited, that the owners have credit, secured credit facilities. So we have to start resolving these issues. Ministry of Finance, they are doing the right thing in the sense that they are adopting a global concept, the World Bank concept, but domesticate it. Bring in, that convention even gives procedure for that. Different countries localize based on your own experiences. So it's not just a legal issue. You have to bring in estate surveyors in dispute resolution, in identifying the risk, and know how to mitigate these processes. Our senior colleagues, they were all talking about title and all that. Title is key.
So, sir, I'm taking away from you. Okay.
Final forfeiture order is a court process, but there are other court judgments tied to some of those processes. If you don't identify and mitigate it properly, you will end up after this process, you still see properties, major properties that will contribute to the economy, tie down in court 10 years, and it will defeat the whole essence of tapping the potential. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Yezio Paliki. Taking away from that, dispute resolution is key. I wish we'll have time because there's something I would like to ask about that. So I'm just going to walk down the list of panelists. Yes, Okasimu, please. I'd like to get your opinion. Again, we're still looking at it from a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat model. To ask you, from what we have heard, and then, just moving forward, what would be your opinion is? I'll now say 4 minutes, so that if I have to ask any question, then it will go to 5.
Okay, thank you, my moderator. First, I think we need to take ourselves back to yesterday's papers. The 2 papers presented by, that's the first one, that's the lead paper by the second vice president. He said something very important, that the real estate profession and the accounting profession are the only 2 professions that have global dimension. I think we need to appreciate that first. When we do, it means that what the federal government is about to do, basically, I want to take the auctioneering aspect. They want to auction. They want to sell by way of auction. So in that, there are our strengths, we have our strengths, our weaknesses are there, the opportunities are there, and there are threats to us as individuals and as an institution. So the international dimension piece, this says, is very important. One, if we ask ourselves whether the domestic economy, the Nigerian domestic economy, has the capacity to absorb
the assets that are about to be auctioned at a moment? We have to answer that question. So there is a likelihood of attracting international direct foreign investment in this area. Two, in yesterday's paper, Dr. Ibe Koli, in trying to define the real estate itself, when we put that definition in context with our public policy framework, particularly with our public service, what we have is only the land administration component that exists within the federal structure. We don't have any federal government organ that is really in charge of policy direction with regards to the entire real estate sector. And we need that because it's the absence of that you see assets being sold either Ministry of Justice or in fact any other ministry. So there is no coordination. So assuming we have a real estate department, even under the Federal Ministry of Works, that this particular function or operation will have been domiciled with that department. And I think we need that. Again, looking at our opportunities, in auctioneering, we as estate surveyors and valuers are more of offering services. And when you are offering services, it is not the normal marketing mix of price, product, lens, and promotion. We have the three additional ingredients in the mix. That is, you have the people, physical evidence, and process. And this is where we are supposed to see our study, to exercise our profession. So we are in service, we are providing service. So what we are doing is more of service marketing than product marketing. So we have to look at that as when you contextualize it within our strength or our weakness, our strength or whatever. Then, silver auction itself, let's look at it. It's only a specialized model of selling. So how are we prepared as estate surveyors and valuers to carry out this function? Because some of us, or some of our members here are politically connected. They could get this job. As the board chairman mentioned, somebody, the EFCC chairman already said the work of the jury is about 14 billion or something. $42 billion, million dollars. By fiat, we had at different times encouraged EFCC. The moment they seize, the first thing they should do is to value. Immediately after valuation, they can go to the press and say, this is the worth of what we have seized. But they don't do that. So I think EFCC itself needs to create a department within its system that will be in charge of pricing some of these assets so that the public will not be misled by certain information.
Thank you very much, sir. We're having issues of departments. You know, you raised at least two clear departments when you're talking about the issue of pricing, or even a department that collates all the properties from, you know, like you mentioned in what you said, where different government MDAs, they are all trying to sell properties or, auction properties and all those. And then there's also the issue of pricing that makes people not come to the market with outrageous, unverified valuation for any of the things they want to dispose of. But I want to take that and bring it to you, yes, Ishmael, and ask that what do you think we can do a bit differently? Considering the fact that we speak so much about our lack of, not by our own, well, I think not by our own willful action, of our lack of involvement in these processes, to such an extent that somebody will give a fiat. I mean, what else can we do? We talk about it. Is there some other nimble, more creative, or we haven't thought of process that we can get involved with or we can bring on board to help us to be able to work in this mix with the public sector, especially when it comes to these issues of their real assets?
All right, thank you very much. But before I answer that question, I want to put some context into why we are sitting here. I think it's important we understand that. We are all faculty chairmen here, and we are speaking to the reason we have faculties and engaging. So Francis is the chairman of the arbitration, and that's why he was speaking about dispute resolution. Adamu is the chairman of the real estate consultancy, which is why he probably is emphasizing on service marketing. And Kelvin is the chairman of the faculty of plant and machinery valuation. And to the extreme, Tokwe Ojo is chairman of the auctioneering.
Yes.
Together, we feel there's an important message we want to give in our engaging in the public sector and beyond that. So going back to the question you asked me, is simply why are we not? Because we don't understand our different skills.
Okay, so when you answer it, could you speak to that across the different faculties so that...
Yes, so in understanding it, the first process that started with the disposal would have been consultancy. If you're dealing on real estate or real assets, there would have been a sit down to understand what needs to be done. So effectively, we have to be seen as the group that can advise as what do we do with these assets? What are the special things that needs to be considered before we go to market, before we get to the public stage of advertising? And that's where consultancy comes into it. The consultants would advise you, you have this challenge, you have this process, you have special assets, and effectively you need to do this. And one of the things you need to first address is what was said here. Can we bring it out to the market at the same time? Somebody needs to advise you on the sensibility of that. So we need to be recognized as having that cognate skill to give the advice. So accidentally, they will probably go to an accountant first or go to a lawyer first and leave us out of that chain. It is subsequent to that having enumerated your assets, specialized them, we now go to the public stage of advertising for valuers, which is where we are recognized. And I think we're recognized because we're estate surveyors and valuers. That word valuers brings us into a corner. So that's where, again, we need to be able to recognize that we need to broaden our special areas and bring out the skills and knowledge that we have gone through before engaging with the public. The other part is, what mode of sale are you going to go through? By private tender or by auction? Now we're faced with the auction issue and we're trapped again. We don't have the word auction in our professional nomenclature. So they look for auctioneers. But what is not understood is that we started as auctioneers. Our profession started as auctioneers before we've now ended up being estate surveyors and valuers. So that special area needs to be recognized. And this is where we need to market ourselves in the way that they know what we do and they know we know how what we are known for. So these different things need to be brought together under an umbrella to the public sector for them to understand that we have these skills and we are capable of delivering these services. And the issue of dispute resolution, again, it's within our purview, but it's not understood that we play a major role in that sector. So when you go into an end sale or even evaluation and you have a challenge, you bring that specialist to come in again based on his own skill, his technical skill, to advise on these assets. And that's where I think we need to now get in the collaborative work together.
Thank you. Benga, but you said we need to First of all, to talk about, we started off as auctioneers, not a lot of people know. I'm not even sure a lot of members of this great institution even know that we started off as auctioneers. So, I mean, how ready are we to market ourselves? Here's your Philly, where we need the world to know. It seems, I mean, we keep clapping in the dark. So what are we going to do differently? One of the things that's very peculiar about a lot of our old fathers was their involvement in the political space. And so they were part of the conversations that were going on. Is it that we don't know how to come into it, or is it that some of us are already in it, we don't know how to manage what we have? Because we keep talking about letting people know what we do and who we are and the kind of role we can play in the entire value chain. But it seems either no one is listening or we're not talking nicely enough or shouting. I don't know what it is. What would you say?
Well, thank you for that question. I have been an advocate of telling surveyors, whoever cares to hear, that you need to move with the trend. If you see the trend of what is going on now all over the world, is specialization. Now, if you see Nigeria in the 70s, Nigeria in the 80s, is no longer the same for every profession you can point out in Nigeria. Accounting is breaking down, engineering is breaking down. So if we keep thinking that we'll have, you call me estate surveyor and valuer, and I will use that name to do everything, we might be joking, because we might get to a point. If you read the book they call Who Moved My Cheese, one day we'll start looking for the cheese. I pray it doesn't get to that. And so for me, the truth is that we have to specialize. Now, nobody is waiting for you. The world is not waiting for you. The world will not wait for our profession. Sometime in the 90s, when some group of people came together to form Facility Management Association, we all shouted that, oh no, it's our work. But today, there's an act recognizing a group of people to say these are now people who are facility managers. Even if when they are looking for staff, they come to our profession to take and go and start developing them. Auctioneers, they come to our profession and take, they go and start developing them. Since we couldn't do it on our own as fast as possible, to push this thing out, both in our practice and in the school, because it's not just dealing with it in the practice. You need to go to school, take over that profession that you say you can do, and start specializing in it. Now, for me, there's enough for everybody to do. What I think we should do is, the one that is not being threatened now so much, maybe the valuation, part of sale, let's hold it well. Now, if you permit me to speak a bit on using this federal secretariat issue to give you an instance of where we're falling behind and we need to do something about it as fast as possible. Federal secretariat, they valued it for government by estate surveyors, it was sold. Even when Babalaki couldn't make progress, he moved to AMCON. He came back to estate surveyors again, we valued it again, we couldn't make progress. Now, I know I was involved when it got to AMCON. And I can tell you that a few years down the line, I started realizing that we didn't do enough. Because you see, the people on the government side, most times, they don't have all it takes in terms of information about the asset. Now, they will just come to you, you're a valuer, take, go and value for us. And we don't do enough to get them to disclose details about that asset we want to value. Okay, we valued federal secretariat for federal government. Meanwhile, the land for the federal secretariat was given to federal government by Lagos state government, who now said, this portion of land is for institutional use. It had to be an office. Federal government turned around, it didn't discuss with the state. You sell to another party. who you agreed with, in quote, that you can do residential apartments on it, and you take money from him and walk away. Now, the challenge is for me not even to stay on the challenge between federal government and state government. We, the valuers, as consultants advising both parties, we didn't pick it to ask question, what was this land approved for? Okay, if you now check all the valuation that's been done before it was sold, when it got to AMCON, I'm sure if you go to those valuation reports, you will not see any comment that will value this asset as an institutional land. And if you are valuing it as an institutional land for Lagos State government, because the approval to develop comes from the state. And so if you go to Lagos State government office, they are still recognizing it as land for institutional use. That's why Valaki was having problem. So he will face them, they will say, no, this land is meant for office development, for institution, public institution. Now you now ask the valuers that did the valuation, based on what market data did we use to arrive at our opinion of value? Confusion will come there. So I think for us, we need to do a lot more by engaging those representing government whenever they are throwing in these assets for us to help them value. To ask a lot of questions. We need to ask a lot of questions. They don't know, but we must insist that you need to tell us, and we'll tell them why. Or if they fail to tell us, we should be able to classify that valuation report. That this is, our opinion is based on ABC. If it changes, so whoever that is using the report will know this is why we valued it this way. That if these conditions are met, then our report can be used. But if you don't meet these conditions, anybody using this report, you're on your own.
Thank you, Niesv. But can I ask you to take it a little bit deeper? Because I know we're all here representing different faculties and as our strength as an institution, as a profession. This comment you made about because you did not ask the right questions, it seems to be a common streak in a lot of things that people sometimes accuse us of. Now, if we want to be that professional that you cannot but just do without, not just because the law says you cannot do without us, but because we have personified professionalism. I just want to, then we must be able to do things a little bit differently. From your opinion, you're not exactly very young, you're not exactly very old, but then, what would you say would be those two things? Because we play with it a lot, and we get insulted generally. Coming from you as the head of a faculty and representing or even sharing in the pains of the profession, what would you say from this example you've given? What else could we do differently as professionals giving service, no matter the different faculties that we're represented?
Well, for me, you are caught in between, you want to get your daily bread. And when that sets in, it's usually a big challenge for us professionals. Sometimes they will throw in this job for you and tell you, oh, this thing must be in 2 weeks' time. Our auditors are coming, and this report must be in. You see, first of all, they box you in as a consultant. Now you are caught in between proving that I can actually deliver in 2 weeks. At the end of the day, there will be some shortfalls in what we've done, because you wanted to satisfy your client's objective, which is, I need this valuation report to face my auditors in 2 weeks' time. What can we do? We'll try our best. But like what I keep saying, as surveyors, to help ourselves, let's always classify the report when it comes this way. Put a comment. They didn't give me enough time. The window of time I had was too short, so there could be some shortfalls. Just put it in the report, in the comment. I'm sure they will not even read it, because they always go to look at the number where you have the opinion of value and move on. But make sure you classify it to save yourself, and that will do us a lot good.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, members of this noble profession, you would notice I'm not trying to be very technical with this panel, because what we find out that moving forward into this modern century, what you find out it's not always about the technical, it's about the soft skill. That's what's going to be selling our market. You can get professional work done, and some people are even saying with power of technology, sooner than later, even even the computer can do valuation for you. Some young people will come up with some app that will make it a lot easier for people to move forward. So what is going to be the thing that we will use to separate ourselves from the machines or from other people who are doing it? We need to bring a lot of creativity and life skills into our profession. And that is the reason why I'm leaning towards the SWOT. Because we do have all the technicalities and all the know-how, but if we do not know how to meander through emotional intelligence in dealing in the business industry, we are not just technical, we're businessmen, we're marketers, and if you don't know how to sway yourself, you might have the technical, and then they will give the job to someone who understands the heart of business, who just went to school in practice, and then it will come to those who are practicing and say, give me a report, and then he will go and represent. Mr. ESV. My apologies. You have 2 minutes. And please, in these 2 minutes, you have to be calming down to talk to us. Because, you have to be calming down. Because we want to hear what you have to say, and you have such a little time. So please, because there's so much I want to hear from you. My question to you, sir, is that the moderator of the first panel spoke about the unseriousness with which the government deals with real estate.
Well, I want to calm down. And I'm a fast talker. President, are you going to protect me? Okay.
So my question, sir, is looking at that unseriousness, looking that we are the one in the land economy, looking that we have the spread of the different faculties, what is going to be our strategy into changing that perspective of this unseriousness? Because we know that if you cannot unlock the quantum amount of real estate you have in the public space, then we're not really going to have a lot to work with. So what would you say we should be able to do differently, bearing in mind what our elders have spoken about their own experiences in the past?
Okay, thank you. Let me go straight to answer the questions. One, it's not the president or the government that are not serious. Are we serious as professionals? Actually, we are the ones that need to define the scope. If you want to be seen, you stand up. If you want to be heard, you speak. Now, what are the opportunities based on this transaction? One, I want to talk about real estate advisory and real estate consulting. If you look at the big four accounting firm, they've created a company, real estate advisory consulting, the big four consulting firm. And we're estate surveyors and valuers. We are very transactional in our dealings. Let my property, you put your to-let board, you get out. Sell a property, you advertise, you sell, you get out. Now, we are losing the market dynamics. Look at this federal government something. Somebody saw the gap, created a product out of the gap, ran the product all through from packaging the products in the market, bringing valuation, brought in auctioneering, brought in all those things. We only react when they've already baked the cake. And that's the problem we're having. We should see the gaps in the market. Look, tenement rating valuation used to be one of the biggest tickets for us in the time past. We lost out, we are keeping quiet. Can't we explore those options and we run through the circles of what we're doing? Now back to the opportunities. There is big opportunities in real estate consulting and advisory. In this transaction, we are talking about valuation by federal government. What about asset pricing on the part of people that will bid and buy that properties? The past president was talking that some people were buying, they could not get into the house. That is our job to advise them. That is the way they will price the assets. You want to buy an asset, no ingress, no ingress, and you are paying money at market value, whereas you're supposed to pay at liquidated asset value. So you get the dynamics. It's the way we push the market and the market responds to us. So we need to grow our capacity in that aspect. You know the number of clients that will call you. I want to sell my property. Please, what's the price? You tell him the price, you don't have money. Go and meet a doctor. He will treat you for malaria. He increases to typhoid, he collects money. He will go into run tests, he collects money. So we need to change the way we think and the way we handle our projects. Banks ask us to do valuation. We value, we get away. But from the valuation, we can advise the bank about the state of the property.
So let's look at that opportunity. That's one. Let's go look at another opportunity. It's an opportunity for our universities, our polytechnic, to rejig their academic curriculum. Look, that's the factory that is producing graduates. So if they are using 4-figure table, where people are using digital calculator, it will not match the market. So the market mix is going to change. Now let's look at the hybrid opportunities in this particular transaction. You can be an auction witness for government or for the person that is buying. The person that wants to buy may not go there, but he needs an expert to advise him to run the transaction cycle. So you need to do that. That's a big business option for us. Valuation. People are clamoring for federal government valuation on this transaction. Fine. Let me tell you 2 tricky things, if you are not careful, why people don't respect the valuation report. I love what ESB Gary Bello said. It's a forfeited asset, and there's a final forfeiture. What interest are you valuing? Now, the root of title of that forfeiture is based on the interest that they give, interest transferred by the original owner. So if somebody has a 40 years on expired terms and you are valuing it for 90 years, the market will repel it. 2, you are going to push 50 properties in the market at the same time. You are not selling a retail transaction. It's a wholesale transaction that you're going to throw in bulk of properties in the market. So the way you look at that valuation, you must be knowing that the supply end will be high and the demand, so the price will go down. Hope I'm not aggressive. Are we seeing sync?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, Jojo. Ladies and gentlemen, please, noble colleagues, if we have any question because of time, can you just kindly write them on a piece of paper? We're going to take 5 questions for this session. Please kindly write them on a piece of paper and pass it from any of the ushers to my partner moderator here. Yes, sir.
Let me focus on auctioneering.
1 minute.
1 minute.
I'm counting. 59.
How do we license our members to enjoy those privileges in the market? It's a tricky balance that we have to address. Thank God the president is interested in that. Nigeria has a 13-point-something trillion naira budget. He has a deficit of about 5 trillion naira. They must finance the budget. So a lot of assets will be thrown in the market for valuation and for sales. So the critical thing is that how do we empower our members to play in that market? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keeping it under 1 minute. I want to wrap up this session, and I want to put the man in the middle. You are in the middle, and you're in the middle of what I want to say, because we all say valuation is the one that is still not touched. So we've heard you say so many things to us here, to management, to everybody. But you also have roles. So I want to be the one representing, like you are laying a stake for your faculties. You must be offering us something else. There's so many of us that are supposed to be faculties. What is it that you're bringing to the members to be able to endear our trust in the different departments, in the different faculties you have, moving forward to improve? Is it that you're going to come together and make presentations with all these things we've said, constantly, agitate the waters in the institution? There must be something you're going to do. It's not just to tell us what the problems are. What are we now going to do? As, thank God you're all chairman, what are you going to do for us moving forward so that we can begin to take advantage of the various spread we have and, at least, like you say, specialize as much as we can? So please speak for the rest of them. You, sir, Benga Ismail. You are the center. The valuation is the cocoa of the matter.
Thank you very much. Okay, let me start with saying that the issue from the curriculum side, that is where you treat one of the challenges. But more importantly, for us, we have to start thinking on a business-like approach. What we do now is maybe it's a traditional point for being too theoretical. We are looking at valuation, we're looking at agency, we're looking at these theories that just take us somewhere that has no answer. We have a major challenge, which is a threat that we are not, in maybe a few years, not going to exist anymore. We cannot earn our daily hours anymore because there's no job to be done. Because we're only looking for valuation instructions. And typical valuation instructions is ending because it serves no purpose. So we must now look at the different parts. Why do I do evaluation? And I want to give 2 case studies, if I may. One, the asset sales during the Obasanjo presidency through BPE. There were 4 real estate sales. One, the Nigerian Hotels Limited, the Transcorp Hotel that we know today, the concessions, which is the Tafa Balewa Square, and also the trade fair. Out of these 4, only 2 seem to be successful. Now, one of the engagements that happened there, the real estate company involved there was Knight Frank. And at that point in time, they were working with PwC and KPMG. What were the issues? We looked at it and said to them that this is a real estate transaction, but you don't see it as that. It's not an accountant's transaction, it's a real estate transaction. So let us handle it. What was the biggest challenge? I will start from the Transcorp. Nikon Nuga Hilton at that point in time had a clause that said you had a 5-year contract with the Hilton Management Group. Whoever came to buy cannot buy it without that contract. And some people came in with different hotel chains wanting to buy this. And we said, it's not going to, that's the classification you're talking about. And we did classify it. You cannot sell it with that contract in place. The only group that's going to buy it is a company that comes without a hotel chain. That transaction was for 2 years. Nobody could buy it because they were insisting until they solved that problem. And Transcorp came back and now bought it with the Hilton Management Group. That was an advice I was given from a real estate company. Second, Nigerian Hotel Limited. A lot of people look at it that it is what it is today. But again, Knight Frank at that point advised, break up this company, break it up into a real estate asset, sell the land, keep the ones in front, and just sell one part and let us see what they want to do with it. And create 2 companies, Ikoyi Hotel Limited and Central Hotel Limited. That resolved the problem. That was consultancy we did at that particular point. It wasn't valuation, it was consultancy. But we valued the end product, we valued Ikoyi Hotel, and we valued Central Hotel Limited after the consultancy that was done. That is how we should start thinking. Going forward, which is auctioneering, he said what we did. The hotel had assets, movable assets, cutleries, bed sheets, and all of these things. That was thrown into auction. And that was solved because at the end of the day, even if we did value it as plant equipment and movables, it needed to be sold. It could not be sold with the traditional way. And effectively, that created another opportunity for a different group of people. So once we recognize these things, we bring the different specialized points in it. But it was a business transaction. We understood it was a business approach that we had to go through. And effectively, that led us to see what opportunities were there. So, and if that's how we should also start thinking. Look for your opportunities, look for the problem, and then create a solution.
Thank you very much, Niesv Gbenga Ismail. Look for the opportunity, create a solution. I think that really runs right to every global way of looking at business, really. And so, like they will say, we cannot think technical and just dig our heads in this. We need to think global in our mindset so that we can be more relevant. Niesv Kasim, you are going to please round up for us in 1 minute, if possible, 30 seconds. We have 1 or 2 questions here. But the conversation I want to leave with us moving forward is that we need to have an end-to-end, entire value chain mindset in the business of real estate. Like what you said, when someone comes, help me look for land. I mean, we don't pause to ask, what do you want to use it for? Just help me look for land, 30 square meter this, and then the man takes it in a commercial area, and then you buy, sir, I found you land. I mean, he's definitely not going to buy that land just to be staring at it. He wants to do something with it. What kind of conversations are we having? Even when you put up the property, someone's got to manage it. Even when you manage it, someone's got to keep it. And even when you want to dispose it, even once in a while you want to put it in your book, someone's got to value it. So we need to think the entire spectrum of real estate and not just see ourselves as, boxes. Even if we want to be specialists, you must see yourself in the spectrum and think, where do I belong in this entire scheme? Some of us belong to 3 or 4 faculties, but we are not making meaningful impact in any one. And so we need to just go back and rethink the entire process. Thank you very much, sir. Yes, Kasimu, please, can you round up in 1 minute for us?
Well, thank
From
you.
the consultancy perspective.
Yeah, thank you very much. One thing I'm certain about is that no economy will survive without the estate surveyor and valuer. It will never survive because of the critical role that we have to unlock whatever potential that the real estate sector will have to offer. So the fears that exist in the minds of our members that we are losing, yes, it's the market that is changing. But we as practitioners have refused to speak the language of the market. But by the time we begin to speak in that language, I can assure you that the sky will be our limit. And not to let the cat out of the bag, at least as I had expected, I thought the chairman of the board, because we are all regulated here, and the auctioneers we have in the market today are not regulated. All the quacks around are not regulated. We are the only ones that are regulated. And I can assure you that the regulator of this particular profession is doing something to ensure that the profession is unbundled under the umbrella of estate management and valuation. I can assure you that.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, all members of this great panel. Thank you, noble colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. It's been a long day, and so permission, I have only one question here. But because of time, I would appreciate that if you can continue the conversations amongst ourselves while we we have a few days here, we can continue to have this conversation. It's an unending conversation because it really cuts to the heart of our profession. I thank you all again for listening, and I wish you all a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Distinguished noble colleagues, I have the honor of bringing to the podium the president of our great institution to present certificate to all the panelists. Distinguished noble colleagues, please welcome the 24th president of our great institution to the podium, Estate Surveyor and Valuer, Sir Chief Emmanuel Okasiwike. You're welcome, sir. Please, a round of applause for our president.
Noble colleagues, the first vice president and other members of the management committee, the chairman of the board of trustees, past presidents here present. Please, this place is far, I cannot see some of you there. Please, I'm very sorry. Noble colleagues, let me say that the world is moving very, very fast. And the profession that we all belong to is dynamic in nature. Just like most of the panelists have said, we have lost most of our area of specialization or area of practice because we refuse to listen or refuse to see the changes that were coming. I'm aware that in those days in Knight Frank used to do project management, and I was told that most of the high-rise buildings in Lagos Island were actually under the project management of most estate surveyors and valuers. Today we have lost it. And somebody said that the reason why we are losing some of all these things is because we just take little and leave the rest. Just the example that somebody gave, and that's what most of us do. You see a client that said he wants to buy property. I want to buy a land in Wuse or Metama. He won't even ask. In those days, I was told that you will see an estate surveyor and valuer that will consult for the client. He will buy the land. He even you know, bring in the professionals, he bring in the architect, the quantity surveyor, the engineers, and all the other professionals together, and now head that, that team to develop that property. We have lost it because we went into agency and dwelled so much on agency while other people were taking our position. So I think that it is time for us to come back. And one of the ways I think we can come back fast is for us to go into specialization and also partnership. That will help us to see how we can recover. Because by the time we are trained as specialists in those areas, that makes us, that distinguishes us from those who are not specialists in that area. So we need to work hard. And let me also say that the essence of this conference is not just for free. You can see now that the hall is almost empty. But I want to thank those of you that are seated here to listen to this. Because it's from here now we begin to build ourselves. And you will see that the difference will clear after 1 or 2 years. So I want to encourage all of us, even at the breakout section, choose the one you know you can attend. Let it be that we learn and learn properly. And when it is time for us to socialize, we'll also socialize. This is a technical session that I expect most of us to sit down, especially the young ones, so that they will learn and ensure that the mistake that some of us did at the past, they will not do the same. On that note, on behalf of the National Council and the entire membership of the institution, I want to thank both the first panelist and the second one for a job well done. We have seen from the elderly ones, and we have also listened from the young generation. So what it means is that we can work together in synergy to make sure that this profession is well protected. On that note, I have been told that there are so many agitations that we need to allow other persons to speak out their mind. So I'm going to give 5 chances. So if you know you want to make any comments, any question, any contribution, you raise your hands. Yes, number 1. Just take your number. Any other person? Number 2, Ohiri. Number 3. And still only 3. Okay, you are number 4. Number 4. Any other person? Okay, I can see somebody behind. Number 5. Because of, is it a lady? Are you a lady? Eh? Okay, you are number 6. That will be the last. Yes, please come. Or give him the microphone. Do we have microphone? Please, you can give him microphone so that he can speak from there. That will reduce the time.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. President and members. My name is Dr. Godwin Allo. I represent the president of the Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society and the General Secretary of Society. I would like to congratulate you for this wonderful conference. It is a double one, 2020 and 2021. But I needed to speak as a professional and a preacher for breaking of walls between different professional groups. I first had an observation. Mine is just an observation and some suggestions of the way forward. One is that I had to stay for this session because I believe it's a technical session. It's a session where people need to make input for the growth of the Nigerian institution of estate surveyors and valuers. And I observed that out of all the panelists, all the people introduced were ESV, and I said, this is a technical session. I expected to see some dilution. The people that will also give some of their perspectives. I work as a geophysicist and somebody in the mining industry, and many of our professional bodies suffer from what I call the concept of the original sin, where if the professional body is formed along a line, then you tend to maintain that line of formation, and you hardly see yourself deviating away from it. So we all have to be wary of it. society was formed as an auctioneer initially. Then there are so many other things and values that this society can create over time. My experience with the industry had to do with some of the industries in the sector, like the coal industry, where government had to liquidate the coal and the mining assets. And some of these coal and mining assets in the process of liquidation involve people that are members of this great institution. And it happened that, and a typical example is the plantation we had for driving the mine. There's a special tree we call melina. And I know that when that melina plantation and some of the lands around it were being valued, they were just valued as land. People bought them and cleared up the entire plantation. And these are melina trees that have taken so many years to grow. There were other opportunities which those melina plantations would have been deployed to, and not just selling them off as land. And even if government tried to revive some of the mines in Enugu and Okaba and the rest of them, it would take us so many years to grow back those plantations. Some of those plantations took 30 years, 40 years to grow, and they're all gone. The other thing is that it's also possible for us here to break into specialization. And it was mentioned by the panelists, because a society that has over 18,000 members should be able to have specialist groups, groups that are specialists in specific fields, so that if you're involved in some of these programs of liquidation or selling of assets, you can also be special. You can also be special in your delivery. Those are my observations, that going forward, the society has done so well, that there's a need to break into some specialties and there's a need to innovate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2.
Yeah, my president, my able president and distinguished noble colleagues. My observation is hinged on three key comments made by the panelists. The first is the lamentation of one of the panelists that we have a gap, a problem of not really covering all aspects of the client's need in our valuation. But let me quickly remind him that valuation is made for a decision. You don't just go and start valuing brick and mortar. There is a reason why a client instructs you to do evaluation. If you are limited in that instruction, you go to give him exactly opinion based on what he feels will be beneficial from you as an expert. If he wants your advice, it is now your duty to give him advice as a consultant in respect of the general use or the potentials of a property, wherein we will now talk of the highest and best use. If we have the green book or the red book, as the case may be, that's structured properly and going through continuous revision, if any valuer falls short of the provisions in these guidelines, it means that the valuer actually has erred. So that is that one. Then the second observation I want to make is on the issue of the sale of assets. You know, if not for the sake of impunity, if we follow things procedurally the way it should be in other climes in this country, I don't see the reason why a valuer, after possibly valuing a property, and your principal uses your opinion to sell a property, it will now be the gap between possession, between the possession you are supposed to have after paying for a property, should be the responsibility of the person who has sold the property to you. If federal government has a property to sell, there are agencies and organs of government that should make this property marketable. And if it is not marketable, there's no point giving somebody out a pot of soup when you have not cooked it. So if the consummation is not done, the exchange of papers, the possession that is supposed to be given, if they are not going to be properly followed after the exchange of value, then it means that there is no need going into that transaction until they are ready for it. Then the third is this auction thing. I want to know if the definition of auctioneering has changed. I know that where the market does exist, that even if you want to auction a property and you discover that the population of people who are in need of that property has increased, definitely the normal economic principle of increase in price when demand increases. And these are basic economic principles that it should take place. So I think we have to look at that issue of auctioneering. Secondly, we have to look at it critically. If
that is the third one. You said second
yes,
before.
The second,
so please, can you summarize?
Yes, the third one is that. And if we don't look at this issue of auctioneering very well, it might equally be another source of, impunity, so to speak. I don't want to go into it in broad details here. Maybe by the time we go off camera, there may be need for us to talk to those who can bring blueprints to enable us play very, very safe, because our population is increasing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 3, you can see Topo Ojo, who is the chairman of auctioneering faculty. I think he will be willing to discuss with you.
Mr. President, my name is Niesv Etudo. I'm the senior partner of Etudo and Company. I usually don't have patience sitting for a long time, but I've really, really enjoyed today's discussions. For the simple reason that we are talking forfeited assets. I have managed properties under interim and final forfeiture on behalf of the EFCC for the past 10 years. I was struck by comments made about valuation of forfeited assets and proposed auction. And I feel I should say one or two things. Every procurement of the federal government must be done as prescribed by the Public Procurement Act. Attorney General of the Federation has a new regulation, and in that regulation, his office has assigned the management of properties under final forfeiture to the office of the Attorney General. An advertisement was carried for valuation. And in that advertisement, luckily, they called for only estate surveyors and valuers. Then after a short while, we saw, whilst the process of valuation procurement was still going on, another advertisement came up for auction. And I looked at the advertisement. I saw they were asking for only members of Chartered Institute of Auctioneers and then National Association of Auctioneers. What struck me was that the two bodies are private associations, not recognized by any law. Then I looked again at our own law, and I saw that Section 31 of our regulations gives us the right to sell property. Section 16 of our ESV Act says that anybody who is not an estate surveyor who does our work for a fee is a criminal. That being the case, we look at auction. What is auction? It's sale by public treaty. And if it is sale by public treaty, and if Section 16 of ESV Act is anything to go by, my submission to this august gathering is that by law, we are the sole authority to sell federal government property in Nigeria. And when that advertisement was carried, and I saw, first of all, I noticed that some senior members of the profession, that was sometime last year, were hobnobbing with one Chartered Institute of Auctioneers. And I wrote to the board because I knew that vultures were gathering. And I said, how can senior estate surveyors and even past presidents be hobnobbing with this body that clearly is usurping our statutory role as the only chartered organization that is authorized by law to sell property in Nigeria? If you look at what happened, somebody mentioned, I think it was Bello that said that anybody who does valuation cannot do auction. And my question is, if they are doing auction and we are not part of it, how can anybody now say that if you do valuation, that you won't do auction? Ab initio, they excluded us. So who are those estate surveyors who maybe will do valuation and should be disqualified for auction if we were not part of the auction? What I did in my firm was that I applied for auction in order to acquire the local standing for a fight. If I'm excluded, I will ensure that the law prevails. I copied the institution, I copied the board, I copied the secretary to the federal government, I copied the vice president, I copied the Bureau for Public Procurement. What I see gathering is a massive fraud, and it will be fought. The laws are being broken. We are a very lucky set of professionals that have laws that have reserved a load of bread and butter for us. And we should not be afraid in upholding our laws and in practicing in accordance with law. Section 23, finally, of the Public Procurement Act states that once some criteria have been advertised as criteria that will guide a procurement, you cannot midway alter those criteria. In other words, auction was advertised, certain criteria were set out, and one of those criteria was not that if you did valuation, you will not do auction. So where was that nonsense coming from? It's not coming from any law. It's coming from interested parties. And the rubbish must stop, Mr. President. I thank you. You called me, and we discussed. I'm very passionate about the profession that has given me everything. And I, for one, will not be a party to anything that will diminish us. All the vultures hovering around auction should disperse, or I disperse them. And
okay, thank you very much.
If they don't disperse, I'm saying it, we all surveyors. If they don't disperse, Mr. President, I will ensure that people go to jail. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Noble colleagues, those are the words of Estate Surveyor and Valuer Tudo, but this is a professional gathering. I did not take that word vultures. This is a professional body, and I think that we should maintain our decorum and maintain our language. That is not our language, please. But I've listened to you, and like you said, we have discussed on this matter. My assignment is to protect this institution, which I'm doing in conjunction with the board. I cannot stand alone as institution or representing the institution without getting back to the board. And also, I think that I consider myself lucky that when things happen, I'm also called. And if I see that there are anything that is going wrong, I normally call the person without looking at the position as the president. Because if anything goes wrong, I will be the first person to be called upon. But your passion has been noted, and I'm sure that the chairman of the registration board is here, and at the appropriate time, those things will be looked into. Number 4, please just take 2 minutes, because my intention was for us to leave here by 5. And okay, we still have a breakout section for about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Please.
All right. My name is Theophilus Odisi. I want to really appreciate the speakers, the first panel, and even this second one. I also want to align myself with what has been said, that we should not in any way look down on ourselves. Yes, I remembered when I was in the university, River State University, a Ghanaian lawyer who was taking us in land law, law of tort, law of contract, and so on, told us that we were as good as lawyers when it comes to contract law, land law, and all that. We did all those things as the law students did. And so if there is anybody that would want to look down on us and that we should not participate in the whole process, and I think a member of the panel said we should make sure we participate from the beginning to the end. We should not wait until the cake is baked for us to be called to take part in it. I also remembered when I was living in the River State Housing and Property Development Authority, and when Bayelsa State was created in 1996, I moved over to Bayelsa State to set up the Bayelsa State Housing and Property Development Authority, having headed the River State Housing and Property Development Authority. We noticed that non-professionals were brought in even in the assets sharing process. And I want to say that, in fact, those of us that were professionals, my colleague Mark Nemebuka was heading the team in River State while I was heading the team in Bayelsa State. We were sidelined because we did not take the right positions from inception. And therefore, I want to plead, as my president has said, I should summarize, that the council should set up committees made up of competent, experienced persons to draw up the guidelines so that we can present them. We shouldn't be afraid. We have the talents within us. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 5.
Mr. President, my name is SURVEYOR Gilbert, a fellow of the institution. I first want to commend the President and all the organizers. I think this is one of the best we've had for the caliber of people that have spoken and attended this occasion. It's highly commendable.
Thank you.
Then, mine on the auction is the third speaker had elaborately, expressed or, said my mind. But what I need to add is that I see it as coming behind the door to take our job from us on flight. We are licensed auctioneers, so to say, legally say. Then I don't see how, after that advert, I also participated. Then the second advert came up when we thought it had been concluded. And then this issue of getting auctioneers, throwing spanners at our wheels. I think we, as a professional body, should fight it legally, because I believe it's our core job, and we can't allow any other person to come and take what is ours. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Like I said, the chairman of the registration board is here, and we are going to work together to protect the frontiers of our profession. That I assure you. The sixth person.
Good afternoon, my president.
Thank you.
My question goes to us. This conference has thrown up critical issues that have been affecting us. The issue of specialization, the issue of data and this. I'm asking if the president and the council will give us time frame for us to actualize this whole thing so that we won't come back next conference and start talking about it. And time is not on our side because there are vultures hovering around trying to take it.
No, I don't like that language. I've said so before. Let me assure you, we have our rapporteurs that are working there. You can see our noble colleagues working tirelessly over there. So at the end of the day, I want to assure you that the council and the institution will take their appropriate action.
My president.
Is that this? Are you among the prophets? Excuse me, sir. Did I give you a number?
They bypassed me.
Okay, they bypassed you. Okay, as a senior, as an head of the profession, let me allow you. And after that, I will give an opportunity to our immediate past president.
My president, sir. I want to commend the organizers of this conference, and particularly your leadership. You have done excellently well. And wish you more successes before you hand over.
Thank you, sir.
Somebody mentioned, sorry I couldn't identify the name, said if you are given a brief and you're asked to submit within 2 weeks, you should put an exclusion clause. I think we've read in several papers, this exclusion law is illegal. You are a professional. You profess to know what you are doing. Most of us take briefs because of the money we are going to take over from it. And in the process, we mess up our profession. If you know you cannot meet it within the, tell the man, I cannot meet it, give me more extension time. But putting a condition that, okay, I've not given sufficient time, that's why I'm submitting a rubbish. I'm not submitting a standard valuation report, I think we should stop it. If you cannot meet a brief within a limited time, tell the clients, please, I want you to give me more time. I'm sure a client who knows your quality. Somebody mentioned yesterday, I don't believe in quacks. If you are good, people will come to you. So let us ensure we improve ourselves, we elevate ourselves professionally, so that people will know that, yes, we are talking to a professional. So that this exclusion clause, we should try to deviate from it completely. If you know you are not competent enough, sorry, I cannot take this brief. Give it to somebody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eda B. Adesanya. Let me also say that some of all these exclusion clause has been taken care of in IVS format and books. Even the Green Book also have given how you have to include these exclusive clauses. So if you want to get into evaluation that you know you cannot be able to complete, the law is there to tell you how to do it. That is the Green Book and the IVSC. Yes, the immediate past president, that is the last one.
Thank you, Mr. President, for obliging me. I felt that sitting here and seeing the level of debate that auctioneering has generated on this floor today, I have a responsibility to give some information that will be useful to our younger ones and also the senior members of the profession. Auctioneering got to a point where they had over 10 associations in Nigeria. Some of them having licenses from outside the nation. And they came together, planned a law, and took it to National Assembly. I led a delegate of representatives of this profession, including the chairman of auctioneering faculty. And in that public hearing, I met our elder, the Tudor. And when we checked the document he brought, we were on the same page. We understood the fact that auctioneering involves valuation to determine the value of what you want to auction, and also the sale by special treaty, as he has rightly pointed out. And then we maintained on the ground that the National Assembly should throw everything they have brought to the dustbin unless they come to discuss with us, because we are the owners of the auctioneering world. And truly they came. I also want to believe that my elder had this information. They came. All the associations came together and we took leadership positions with the approval of the council to make NIGERIAN a major stakeholder in the auctioneering business in Nigeria. And of course today and yesterday, all the talks here is about specialization. Gone are the days we will quote our law and say it covers everything. Even the new regulation does not state the do's and don'ts in auctioneering, but it stated it as one of our functions. Of course, that's the reason why we are planning to review our law, because there are a lot of insufficient provisions in the law. And we cannot fold our hands and be claiming everything at the risk of losing everything. So we decided to take leadership of the auctioneering movement in Nigeria. And I want to put it on the floor here. My learned senior colleague knows that that bill had passed all the readings and is before the President of the nation today. Not only did tariffs go there to make contributions, we also spent money, which my President is aware, because he was part of the council and management that approved that we should go and lobby, since we have been properly recognized, so that there will be a body of law teaching the practice or regulating the practice of auctioneering, not mentioning it as a function of a professional body. That's where we are on this matter. I am not privy to the fact that they are saying you must be a member of the society. True, the society has not been. In terms of registration with corporate affairs, they have registered with corporate affairs. In terms of the law backing them, that is in the process and have gone to advanced level, waiting for president's signature. So we cannot be describing it as non-existing body. But at the same time, until when that law is passed, it is right for us to say, add a state surveyor to what other things you are doing in auctioneering. But to write it off and cast allusion to past presidents or members who are part of that association is wrong, because the council took a decision that we must take leadership. Council took the same decision concerning facility management. We have been bragging that it's our own. And at the end of the day, the people are moving ahead to leave us out and get something done. And then we will be running behind them. So we also spend quality money to be part of the law on facility management. Held meetings with all the branches of facility managers in Nigeria. So we can't be taking 2 steps forward and always look back, take several steps backward. I want to say that I'm not supporting that the advert should say what it says. But when we want to present this matter, we should let our younger ones know what we have done to make sure that our interest is properly captured. Specialization cannot happen by a general law of general practice. It has been underscored here. So this is the time, wherever you can acquire skill to make you a specialist, please join and get the skill first. Because these things exist outside the grounds of this nation. And people are also taking courses. I have an example of a young man, of course my son, did quite a number of certificate courses in project management. And of course today, he has landed a job that he will not get as a general manager in Nigeria and Canada. He has landed a job. First degree, went to do master's because of certification. Small certification. He got that job. So this is the time for us to see additional knowledge and certificate. I rest my case, sir.
Thank you very much, the immediate past president, for that explanation. Like I said before, I'm already discussing with the chairman of the registration board, and as a leader, there are things I should let in the other room. And let me congratulate you for your son's achievement. Remember to pay tithe to us in the first salary that he will earn. Noble colleagues, I want to thank all the commentators and their observations. Let me say that they are all well noted. At the appropriate time, we are going to deal with them. On that note, I want to invite Estate Surveyor and Valuer Guest Henshaw for this certificate of service. As he's coming, let me also invite Estate Surveyor and Valuer Emeka Ele. Please put our hands together for past President Emeka Ele. Estate Surveyor and Valuer Bode Adediji. Bode Adediji. Is he here? Estate Surveyor and Valuer Professor Austin Otebolu. Austin Otebolu, I saw him. Estate Surveyor and Valuer Paul Oseji, this one joined us online. Kevin, can you come and pick this for him? Then Estate Surveyor and Valuer Victor Alonge. Our second vice president was supposed to be in the second panelist, but unfortunately he was not feeling too strong, so he has to go and take medication. So I don't want to deny him that certificate. Let me call on the first vice president, Estate Surveyor and Valuer Jumbo Amayebo. Noble colleagues, I deliberately decided to give the first vice president last before or after the second vice president because I want him to do the remaining presentation so that some of you will not say I break protocol.
when the president speaks. What happened? Everywhere we what? Remain silent. My president, my chairman board of trustees, past presidents, let me stand on existing protocol. So permit me to call others. Estate Surveyor and Valuer Adamu Kasimu, the vice chairman of the board. Is he here? Oh, my very good friend. What is that your title again in Nasarawa? The ambassador of Nasarawa. Thank you. Estate Surveyor and Valuer Francis Opaleki, a fellow of the institution and the chairman, ADRO, faculty. Thank you. Estate Surveyor and Valuer Benga Ishmael, my vice chairman, Lagos State branch, and the chairman, valuation faculty. Estate Surveyor and Valuer Tope Ojo, chairman auctioneering faculty, the #1 auctioneer in our midst. Estate Surveyor and Valuer Kevin Ofili, chairman P&E faculty. The plant and machinery group. He's a guru in plant and machinery. Estate Surveyor and Valuer Osato Osawaye, moderator #1. Yes. Estate Surveyor and Valuer, no, let me call the lady first. Estate Surveyor and Valuer Adejumoke Akure. You want me to tell them the name we used to call you in school? No, after. Estate Surveyor and Valuer Raji Adewale, the only Yoruba man in Igbo land, the Igwe of Onitsha. Thank you, my president, for this honor.
This distinguished noble colleagues, we appreciate your patience and attendance. Now we are going to our breakout session. We have in this hall, African Hall, securitization of real estate investment in Nigeria, prospects and challenges, to be delivered, to be anchored by Dr. Irene Efemeka. Irene Efekara. Okay. Still in the African Hall, from the Faculty of Real Estate Consultancy, we have assessing the challenges and prospects of land use charge administration in Enugu State, to be handled by Obina Collins Nnamani. Still in this hall, African Hall, we shall have the place of environmental valuation in the training of estate surveyors and valuers. That will be handled by our professor, estate surveyor and valuer Victor Akujuru, and estate surveyor and valuer Josiah Woga. In the Niger Hall, behind the podium, we shall be having real estate investment as a catalyst for sustainable economic development in Nigeria. That will be handled by estate surveyor and valuer Kelvin Ufili. In the Benue Hall, still behind the podium, we will be having the need and necessities for the effective property data bank in Nigeria, in the Nigerian economy. That will be handled by estate surveyor and valuer Salau Liadi Tunde, and estate surveyor and valuer Sakariyao Jamiu Kayode, then Muritala Afiz or Laniyi. Distinguished noble colleagues, we encourage all of us to participate in any of those breakout sections. The timing to reconvene back here shall be 5:20 p.m. according to Mr. President. Thank you so much.
Sorry, sir. Yeah? Yes. It represents.
mun da mutane suna da shi bari su dole wani suna gurin ka dan gefe haka bari samu dan samu da sorry samu dan samu da Allah ya ka tura mu dan gefe
sai ka duba gani kamar za ta fasa
ka dan tura mutanen da Allah bari mu ku haka
kamun ne kaɗai bari ɗan sa ta a botin wannan botin
dan karbi wayan mu ka gane ka dauka duka can
to ka cire ta a portrait
ka dauke mu wannan body tana da kyau Allah
gashi to ka ya haƙuri Allah
ni abin da nake practicing kenan
menene okay
amma ba ni I'm good in wayan abubuwa ba kuma ni ba
balwa bane
amma ni na ka san kafi balwa
park kenan park kai ne park kai ne
ni da nake samu
to amma an kai za a kama kai yanzu ba za ka yi ma gwamnati valuation ba
karfin kwastoman ka
a abuja yanzu idan ka yi
wannan wala kana taɗin wani valuation kana taɗin siyan kaya
kai shot video ne ka gane koya ne
to yanzu ya zan yi wayoyin ku ne kawo da waktu duka ada photographer na shoot video kashe
ka shiga wajen? Shot, a shot yana gaba in ka yi babban bidiyo za ta ɗauka da yawa aka yi kamar kana magana kenan ku faɗa da mai kaɗan juya ka haska audience in ka sake ka haska
and with the permission of Mr. President, I have the honor and privilege of inviting to the podium the second Vice President of our great institution, Estate Surveyor and Valuer, Victor Adekunle Alonge. You are welcome to the podium, sir. Can we put our hands together for our second Vice President, please? Is to do the vote of thanks.
My President, ESV Sir Chief Ima Okazwike, the first Vice President, ESV John Bull Amayebo, Council Management Committee members, Council members, all our past presidents, BOT members in absentia. I know the day, and distinguished noble colleagues, I know the day is fast spent. We have been here since morning, and we have had a great time. We have all contributed to the success of proceedings today. And I want to especially thank you for giving this level of support to the President and the Council. As you rightly remember, the Governor of Ondo State alluded to this fact, and I think our President deserves a very fat round of applause for the way he has led us, for the way he has committed himself to this particular program. So I want to thank you for being there for us, for being part of this success, for your determination, for your sacrifice, for the support that you have given us. I'm sure what we have enjoyed today in terms of knowledge will remain with us, and the most important thing is some of these things that we discussed and we learned. The Lord will give us the enablement to be able to put it into practice. So I want to thank you on behalf of the President of the institution for your patience and for supporting this program today. And I wish you a successful return to your hotels and your homes, praying that tomorrow morning, when the program will reopen, none of us will be missing. Thank you. God bless you.
We can do better for our second Vice President. Distinguished noble colleagues, to do the closing prayer, with the permission of Mr. President, I invite to the podium Estate Surveyor and Valuer Malam Baturi Ali Mohammed. You are welcome to the podium for closing prayer. Please, let's put our hands together for our past Honorary National Secretary and a council member of the institution.
Mr. President, sir, our distinguished noble colleagues, we are in prayers, please. I'll urge every one of us to kindly pray individually in our mind for just 30 seconds while I will wrap it up. Amen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun 'alal mursalin. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. May God deliver all of us to our various destination. Amen.